Welcome to the Freelance Tribe. Here we talk with skilled freelancers about their professional journey. Stay tuned for real-life experiences to learn and actionable steps to take to improve your freelancing career. My name is Yuri. I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Sarah Duran, a business and strategy coach, a real-life multiple six-figure solopreneur who works with freelancers from all over the world to reinvent and redefine work on their terms. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Finally, we met first because of Adam Faulkner, our previous guest, and here we are just a few months later, we're talking, yay! So thank you very much for coming. And, I talk to many freelancers and I hear a lot that they don't know where to go next, like what does a career ladder look for them? And from your perspective and experience, what is the highest potential for a freelancer?
So I think, as you probably know, that's a little bit of a complicated question. I think the highest potential for a freelancer is I think dependent upon the person, because I think the beauty of being a freelancer or a solopreneur is that you get to progress faster towards your highest potential than you do when you're necessarily in like some sort of more hierarchical type of work structure. So the beauty of being a solopreneur is that you get to reinvent yourself and your business whenever you want. So next year my business isn't giving me what I need. I can completely change it. I have that freedom. I think a more like detailed and more straightforward answer to your question is that I also see freelancers go through a few different phases of business development. The first one is that we all start off with what I call, well, the majority of us start off as what I call a Jill of all trades. And so you have a skill set. You're basically doing within that skill set anything for anyone. And so people
Mhm.
come to you, you're like, okay, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that. You're not super focused on your business model. You might not be super focused on who you serve or like exactly what you do in terms of like more standardized services, packages, etc. But this is the best phase to be able to sort of explore things and like find out what you like, find out how you price things. Like the thing about being a freelancer is that you have to learn it by doing it. And so you
Mm.
can't really get to the next pieces until you've done some of that trial and error. Um, and then you sort of go through a phase of you start to grow, you start to get more clients organically. And what happens from there is you have to get a little bit more intentional. So, in order to sort of make it and keep it working for you, you have to be able to scale on your own terms, which can look like standardizing your packages and services a little bit more, getting a lot more clear about who you're best positioned to serve, all the lessons that we learned from that first phase. For some people, that might mean taking on like some subcontractors or like an assistant or something like that, maybe growing your team a little bit. Um, and then from there, you get to what I call a micro business. And so you really got it dialed in. You're like, I know exactly who I serve. I know exactly what I do for them. I know exactly how I solve their problems. And I feel really solid about my pipeline. I know because I've gone through the phases of sort of the trial and error, figuring the things out, I'm really good at what I do. And my pipeline is full because I have long-term clients, I have repeat business, I have referrals. Um, but the tricky part is that like most of us that get to that micro business phase, because we are constantly evolving towards our highest potential, you end up going back to the beginning, right? Because we get bored.
Yeah.
Freelancers don't want to just like figure it out and stay there forever. Freelancers want to constantly be starting something new. And so I think the beauty of it is even when you get to that phase where it's dialed in, and I work with a lot of people like this where it's like they're on paper everything is working. They're like, why am I not fulfilled? I've built this thing. It's amazing. Anyone else would love to be in my shoes. And you have to give yourself permission to reinvent it, start over, try something new, or else you might as well just go back and work for someone else, right? Because that's the beauty of being a freelancer is being able to constantly be evolving towards your highest potential.
And it's also great if you have this, you can choose that you want to progress and you want to change. Because what I met, after all this tech layoffs and like people were just working and then like, oh, wow, projects stopped coming. What should I do? And then like they starting to work on their network, on their portfolio. So I'm curious, do you have any like, I don't know, time lines or something like that, when people have to start thinking, when they have to start narrowing down what exactly they're doing, because it's easy to be like multi-expert. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. But then when and how to understand that, okay, I have to be this expert in this niche, and here are my clients, and here's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the timeline I think can be variable depending on how you come into freelancing. So if you come into freelancing like I did, where I basically just started doing exactly what I did before as a freelancer. I worked with people in my existing I like literally worked for people that I've been working for as an employee, as
Yeah.
a contractor, and sort of built my business from there. If you're coming to it from more of like a from scratch type of place where you're like, okay, I want to be a freelancer, but I'm not totally sure what I'm gonna do. It might be you might have a little bit of a longer timeline. Usually I see people start to bump up against that around the like 3 to 5 year mark.
Hmm.
Where they need to start getting a little bit more focused and more intentional. I would say that like I think a lot of advice, and I still, it's not that I don't think you should be thinking about these things from the beginning. You totally should be thinking about like who do you serve, what are the problems you solve for them, all those kinds of things. But I also think that newer freelancers can get stuck there, and then they're not actually allowing themselves to just do and try
Yeah.
and the doing and the trying and the failing is what is going to get you to the next phase. It's not endlessly like sitting there making some sort of brand manifesto. So it is important. I like it's not that it's not important to think about those things from the beginning, but I don't undervalue the power of that phase where you're just experimenting.
And I feel like this over planning might be one of the blockers to achieving their highest potential. So I'm curious, what are other main blockers for freelancers?
I think the biggest block besides that would be continuing to operate with an employee mindset. So boss mindset is something that I talk a lot about, and it's an ongoing journey of a lifetime because we are all raised and trained to be employees.
Mhm.
From the beginning of our lives all the way through school, all through university, we're all trained to be employees. Even people with MBAs or business degrees are trained to be employees. They're trained to go work in a company. Um, no one teaches you how to be a solopreneur. There are some places that may teach you how to be an entrepreneur, where you're going to go run your own company. No one teaches you how to be a solopreneur. And so it's a huge mindset shift to come out of the conditioning that has taught us to be employees, has taught us to let other people make decisions for us, to let other people control our work, control our value. And you have to break out of that mindset shift. I'm sorry, you have to make that mindset shift. You have to break out of the employee mindset. Some of the ways that looks is people continuing to underprice themselves, to continuing to let their clients decide what the scope of work should look like instead of them stepping up and taking authority over their expertise and helping their clients understand what is best positioned to help them. Um, I think a lot of people also have trouble sort of like owning their skill set. So to your question about the highest potential, I think
Mhm.
we have to break free from a mindset that tells us that other people develop us. We have to learn to develop ourselves. And that takes all that doing and trying and failing, but paying attention to it and using your experience as a laboratory to be able to really understand, like, okay, I did that, that didn't work. What do I need to do next? Or I don't actually know how to do that thing. So how can I go find someone who maybe is slightly farther along than I am and I can lean into their experience as well.
Talking about finding someone. So I hear a lot that people are saying like, yeah, freelancers are lonely wolves. We are doing everything by ourselves. And then you are telling like, go and find person. I totally get it. So it's like the best way to learn if you have like-minded people and talk to them. But once again, how to shift that mindset that I'm not a lonely wolf, that I have to connect with others. I have to learn from them. How to do it?
So, I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. I mean, there are tons of amazing freelance communities out there, whether they're Slack spaces or there's a lot of more boutique type of agencies and communities popping up where you can really be in a community of your peers and be able to support each other. Um, for me, it is the basis of the way that I coach freelancers. So the coaching program that I run is community based, which means that where I realized a few years into my coaching journey that one-on-one coaching actually doesn't work very well in
Hmm.
isolation because I'm not an expert. I'm not here to tell people how to run their businesses, right? If that's like going back to the boss mindset stuff, it's like if you want someone to tell you what to do, then you should go get a job. If you want to think for yourself, then be a freelancer. And that means that your relationship with quote unquote professional development needs to look a little bit different. And that's why I think the community focus for that is so important. Because it can't be you just sitting in a room having someone tell you how to run your business. You have to be able to sort of process all of those things with a community of your peers.
I also learn from freelancers that if they're working with like huge companies, corporations, they hire freelancers here and there for sure. It's not like they're not hiring at all, but they hire freelancers while still having this employee mindset. So they hire freelancers to save money on insurance and not to have this like long-term commitment and all this stuff. But they invite people to solve some challenges, to go through some projects, but still they tell freelancers what to do. So freelancers are coming, doing this employee part, and they are out. So what I also hear is that it's hard to overcome this employee mindset and come up with the ideas. Like go to managers, talk to them, propose them something. So people like, I'm asking this question. So if they are saying to do something that is clearly wrong, and you understand this, like what would you do? And people are like, if they pay, most likely I will do this.
Mhm.
So how to switch to like, no, I won't do this, and I will talk to them and I will explain why, and I will proactive. How to be this proactive freelancer?
Yeah, I mean, that I usually frame that as having a level of authority with your clients, which comes over time, right? It
Hmm.
takes time to be able to feel confident in understanding that they are doing it wrong. Because in the beginning, you may not even understand that that's the wrong thing, right? You just may be like, "Oh, that seems fine, and I'm going to do that." But I think that I mean, the biggest question I get from freelancers is like, how do I find clients? How do I find better clients? How do I find the right clients? And one of the answers is that you're going by saying no to people, by pushing back on them when they're asking for things that actually aren't going to achieve their goals that they are hiring you to achieve, you are ensuring better results for them. And
Hmm.
so if you say yes and you do the thing that they're asking you to do, but it doesn't get them the results that they're expecting, they're not going to rehire you. They're not going to come back to you. They're not going to refer you to anyone else. And so you're actually doing yourself a disservice by not pushing back on that client. And that I think also entails some practice in just like um, questioning clients around what are the actual outcomes that they want to achieve, not what is the thing they want you to do, but what is
Hmm.
the outcome that they want to have long term, which may actually change the thing that they're hiring you to do. Um, and so I think being able to push back on clients is something that comes with time, but is also something where you have to recognize that if you want if you want to have clients that recognize your value, then coaching them through the right way to be able to do something is a skill that you're going to have to develop.
And I feel like it's hard to develop, it's hard to say no to money and usually to good money. But yeah, it's a great point that they want to hire you, so you are
Yeah.
like doing a huge disservice. Recently,
And
you
you're
wrote, yeah.
sorry, and I would just add you're demonstrating greater value to them. So
Hmm.
if you're pushing back on them and helping them understand like a broader vision for their own work, you're demonstrating greater value, which means that if they decide to go with you, you should be charging them more money as well.
Yeah, totally. And recently you wrote that solopreneurship is a marathon with no finish line. And I talk to people who run marathons and it's hard. Usually
Mhm.
it's hard. But how to make this marathon, like how to make this freelancers marathon, solopreneurs marathon, how to make it easier?
I mean, I think understanding that there is no destination, there is no finish line actually does make it easier. And so if you think that you're constantly pushing yourself towards some sort of when this happens, I'll be happy. When this happens, I can stop pushing. When this happens, I can relax. Then you're never going to find fulfillment in it. And so I think first of all, realizing that there is no finish line, there is no destination, can be a little bit liberating, knowing that again, you're just doing and trying and failing slash succeeding over and over again, just like everyone else. And the I think another thing that makes it easier again is just going back to having a community of peers that you can talk to about these things because like I said, we all to different extents grow up in a society where working for yourself is not the norm. And that means that it's not easy to talk to our peers, our family, other people around us about this stuff because they just don't get it. Um, and so I think being able to have a community of people where you can just have those conversations, share those wins, those failures, be able to learn from things together, um, is so important.
You're talking about communities, and I see that freelancers are joining communities and they're silent and they're
Mhm.
not sharing messages, they're not engaged in communication, they're not connecting with people. So, how to really act in freelancers communities to get the most value out of them?
I mean, that's a great question. I would say that in my case, of community that is consciously facilitated is really important. And so I think it's not easy to just put a bunch of people in a virtual room, whether it's a Slack space or Facebook group, and expect them to be able to get what they need out of it.
Yeah.
Um, Part of the way that I operate my coaching community is that I am being very aware of the needs, the arising needs of the group from week to week, and designing sessions every week that are meeting those needs. Whether it's prompts or whether it's the way that I'm grouping people to be able to have different conversations with each other. Because, like you said, we're all sort of, to a certain extent, we are all dealing with the same things over and over and over again. They manifest in different ways, but we are all dealing with the same things over and over again. And so, I would say that having a community where you have an not necessarily a leader, right? Like I think it's more of like a flat structure than a hierarchical structure,
Mhm.
but having someone who is dedicated to helping that community get what they need from each other is really important.
How do you feel about delegating stuff?
Delegating is an ongoing journey that I am learning alongside everyone else. I just ran an amazing workshop last week with a partner of mine. Her name is Rachel Everington. She is a master of delegation. She runs a virtual assistant agency. And I learn amazing lessons from her all the time. My main my main message about delegation, I think, to freelancers is that delegation is an act of pushing yourself towards the next phase in your journey. And so I think we often end up holding on to a lot of things as we're progressing through some of those phases that I talked about in the beginning, holding on to things that feel safe for us to do, that feel easy for us to do, that feel known. I know how to do this. I know how to check my email. I know how to do my bookkeeping. So I'm just going to keep doing it because I know how to do it. It's fine. But a lot of times though, you're holding on to things that are actually holding you back from being able to do the next thing in your journey. And so I would say just to look at delegation from that lens as it's not just about getting things off of your plate. It's really about sort of examining the work that you do and deciding what is the work that I should be doing next month, next week, next year. And what does it mean to let go of whether that is literally letting go of or outsourcing to someone else the work that I shouldn't be doing.
How do you think, is it even possible to achieve the highest potential without delegating some stuff that you are not really enjoying doing?
I'm not totally sure that it is. I guess I would say it probably is possible without delegating, but it is not possible without stopping. So I think you can also choose to stop doing
Mhm.
things. And that all should depend. Like I always help people design businesses that serve their lives. And so that should depend on what you want your life to look like time and money wise. Like if you are prioritizing time in one piece of your life and money in another piece of your life, another phase of your life, the answer to that question might look different. Um, so if you are willing to stop doing things and trim the stuff that you do down without delegating it, it might be possible.
Got it. And we were talking about shifting this employee mindset and delegating and joining communities. So, from your experience, what are three actionable steps that every freelancer, I would like to say, should take, but really must take right away to start really achieving their highest potential?
I would say start having direct conversations with the people that you consider your competitors. So I think another way that you can be connecting with freelancers besides, in addition to joining communities, is just having conversations with people. I think a lot of people get threatened by people that do the same thing they do, when the truth is that competition is a myth. No one does the same thing we do because we are all individual, unique humans. And so I think getting outside of your comfort zone, having conversations with people that you would consider your competitors, is a big one. Um, I would say thinking about your pricing structure and your budget for your business as a business is really important. So make sure that you are not pricing yourself like an employee. Make sure that you are building a budget for yourself that builds in things like benefits, paid time off, professional development, all the things that you would get if you were working for someone else should be included in the way that you price your services for your clients. Um, and then I guess I would say that also like zeroing in more and more, which is the journey of a lifetime of who you are best positioned to serve and the problems that you are best positioned to solve for them, and just continuing making sure that that is an iterative journey for yourself and that you're constantly rethinking it as you go.
And I also feel like you have to live, literally live in shoes of your customers to
Yes.
understand where they are moving. Because, with this AI stuff and other things, I see that people are losing their jobs, not because they doing something AI replacing them, but because just other people who use it, they start doing job faster and better. And
Yeah.
it's always, yeah, it's a marathon without a finishing line.
Yep.
So, Sarah, I really wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question, what is your favorite food?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, I would say this time of the year, my favorite food is pho, which is Vietnamese noodle soup. My daughter and I love pho. We eat it all the time when it is cold outside. And so we try and eat as much pho as possible in the winter time before summer comes.
Got it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And it's been such a pleasure to hear and learn from you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button or 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.